So my name is Carlos Miller, Carlos Burnell Miller to be exact. I'm from Palm Beach County. I have a love for Florida. I have a love for just this environment. I have a love for, I have a lot of beliefs about what Florida is and what Florida will be in the future. I have these ideas about just Florida's purpose in the grand scheme of things. Always had a love for filmmaking. It started off when I was in middle school, really. I was supposed to be in another elective, and they decided to put me in this TV film production class. And something happened when I was in that class. Like I was doing some editing, looking at different videos, looking at different films. And before that time, growing up, I had never really seen films too much. As crazy as it sounds, my mom wasn't really big on us kind of watching films and watching TV. So that was kind of like my really first exposure to film. And kind of when I saw film and when I saw just storytelling and just, I've always been an introvert, but that moment kind of showed me that I can kind of really express myself outside of myself. So from that moment on, like, I have done nothing but touch film. High school was the same thing. Took the TV production classes, working with football players. I would do like highlight videos for them going to different colleges. It was always this slow progression to like storytelling. So even though I was doing just some of those highlight videos, I looked at it as a way of telling a story. So how can I not just, okay, it looks like, you're just showing the best highlights of a football player, but for me, it was always a story. And that's kind of like how I progressed to become like a filmmaker. It continued on to the University of Florida. They didn't really have a real film program, but they did have like a TV production program. So I just took whatever I could. And I'll say this, like from high school to college, I kind of took my education more seriously. I didn't have no desire to go to college. I didn't have no desire to pursue education at a higher level. Some situations happened in high school, and my mom kind of just dropped me off at the University of Florida, and I had the grades to get in, and things kind of worked out where I was able to continue my education in film at the University of Florida. And when that happened, to be honest with you, I just kind of locked in the film. So I was just doing music videos. I would just do it, like, write stories, write scripts. I can remember it's funny, someone just dropped off my first script that I wrote back in, I want to say 2003, like 2 weeks ago. They're like, yo, I just looked at my email from a while ago and I see your first script. And it was called The Irony of Defeat. And so it's funny how things kind of come full circle. So after I graduated from my undergrad, I spent a few years just trying to figure out how I'm going to break into the industry, living in Florida, which is a very hard thing to do. The industry is not here. The industry is on the West Coast. I mean, you have to kind of, your options are really limited to either doing commercials or music videos. So I did do the music videos. I reached out to, at the time, he was probably one of the most well-known music video directors around here, Gil Green. I just wrote him an email and I was like, yo, man, just let me write scripts, write treatments for you. Let me help out any way I can. And he reached back out to me and he was like, yeah, for sure. So I just started writing. He'll send me songs for Rick Ross. He'll send me songs for Lil Wayne. He'll send me songs for just every artist that he was writing a treatment or idea for, and I'll write them. So, I mean, I was writing all these different treatments for different artists. And that's kind of how I really was able to even develop my storytelling even more. So for me, I've never wanted to leave Florida. So that also included working with Florida artists and just kind of allowing them to use me while I use them as well. Like this symbiosis of, you guys are entrusting me with your music to create a vision for your music. And at the same time, I'm learning how to grow as a storyteller. But that happened from around, I'll say 2006 to like 2009. But the whole time I still knew I wanted to be a filmmaker in terms of telling stories on a grand scheme. So I never looked at just music videos. I'll also say this, I have a strong belief in God. So even when I was what I would call my furthest point away from God around those times, like I would try to dive deeper into music videos and see, okay, maybe I should make this a career, but something would keep me from kind of pursuing it in a way that I would make it a full-fledged career. I mean, I don't know if it was my own vision of what I had that was blocking me from even accepting certain things as far as pursuing music videos as a career. But it was always something just blocking me from just going full-fledged at like certain detours in life. And music videos was one of them. So while I was doing music videos, I was also applying to, I started to apply to film schools. And as far as graduate school. So I applied to 2 film schools. At the time, like I will always miss the application and the submission date for applying to both of these schools. And I applied to Florida State and I applied to NYU, and I got interviews for both of them. So at the time, I think I took out a loan. I forgot what I did, but yeah, I want to say I took out a loan. Yeah, I did. I took out a loan for my insurance. One to do a music video that I was doing at the time, and then the other so I could drive to Florida State and then fly to NYU to do these interviews. So I drove to Florida State. I stopped at the University of Florida because I didn't have nowhere to sleep. So I slept in the car while I was at University of Florida that night, and then I finished the drive to Tallahassee the next morning. I did the interview and I bombed the interview. Like I literally like froze. It was the first time in my life that I ever froze in an interview. Like I've done a lot of job interviews. I mean, it wasn't. It was weird. Like the lady was asking me questions and I did not say anything. I could not remember a single film. Like I could not remember. Like she was asking me basic stuff that like is in the back of my mind, and I did not say a word. But at the same time, the only reason, I'm just kind of being honest, the only reason I wanted to go to Florida State was because of the girls, man. I knew I had missed out on that experience with the black chicks at FAMU and Florida State. So I was like, yo, if I get into Florida State, man, it's a win-win, man. The ladies are there, and I'm gonna get my film. So I was already kind of out of focus with even approaching that situation. So the NYU interview was right after that. I flew out to New York, and I did the interview, and kind of I got into that program. And I look at like situation like that as being just God's path for me, because I was scared to leave Florida, but what happened was someone who I was close friends with at the time, he was already staying out there. So that gave me the confidence to know, okay, at least I have a place to stay, and I have a situation that's already set up where I feel comfortable, that I can kind of jump into the program and not have these fears about leaving Florida and just having these heavy boots, these concrete boots that kind of want to keep me from leaving Florida and explore. I was able to kind of get confidence in the fact that my homeboy was already there, and I got to NYU, and the rest is kind of history. Origin kind of Between Sins. Some of these things I kind of been thinking about lately, just because the film is having a release. Like I have this tendency to kind of look forward and never really look back and reflect. And these past few months, I've been in these moments of reflection. It came about actually in my second year at NYU. It started as a short. It's funny enough, the main actor for Coy in Between Sins, which is played by George Taylor, he played Pudda in the short version of Between Sins. And it started off really about, it wasn't even about like this struggle between good and evil, the physical and the spiritual. It really started off as, I want to say, it was about like this homeless guy who I don't even remember, but it was completely different from what it turned out to be now. But that was just the evolution and kind of just the tweaking and the perfecting of, I guess, the true nature of the story that I felt inside that I was trying to bring visually to life. So it started in the second year as a short. Going back to the whole music video conversation, almost all the actors were artists that I had met while I was doing music videos. So George Taylor, he's a phenomenal artist, just a real savant, and sage in a lot of ways. When I say just wise in a lot of different ways. So and he was an artist that we kind of always connected. Like we weren't really saying much to each other, but we had this thing where when we were at the studio, at this record studio in Palm Beach, we would always be playing like I think it's Fight Night, boxing game. Like we'll be going at it like every day playing Fight Night. So that's kind of like how our friendship was built. And I would just always, I'm a student. One thing I can say that I hope it doesn't sound too, I don't know, like arrogant or prideful, but one thing I do believe that I'm good at is just studying people, man. And just like looking at their nuances and kind of looking at the things that make them a unique character. And I hone in on those things, and I visualize stories around ideas and concepts and just what I see in a person. So I'll see someone and they don't even know that I'm thinking about them for a story that I haven't even thought of that might come around 10 years later. And I might just hit them up and like, yo, you'll be perfect for this role. And it's just because I locked into something that they were doing when I had conversations or when I was even around them for a brief moment. And that would allow me to kind of lock in and kind of say, oh, I could use you for this. So that's what happened with George Taylor. He had something in him that I recognized and that he also expressed to me as well. I don't want to make it a one-way street. There was a conversation about just him as being an artist, not just limited to music, but just could do anything. So I saw that and I trusted him in his belief in himself, and Between Sins, the short came about. So fast forward to the Between Sins, the short version being made, and I had plans to not do a feature. Like extending Between Sins from a short to a feature was not in my thoughts. What happened was all my classmates and all my professors at NYU, they was like, yo, there's something here. You should go ahead and expand this to a feature. And I considered it, and I was rumbling and just working out, massaging some other ideas in my head for a feature and what I wanted to do for my graduation at NYU. And it kept on calling me to come back to Between Sins and develop that into a feature. So that's kind of how the feature came about for Between Sins. It was just not really my own initial thoughts and push to make it happen. Really other people seeing something in Between Sins and encouraging me to write it as a feature. So when I committed to making Between Sins a feature, I knew I want to. So the one thing about Between Sins as a short was I was still perfecting or trying to perfect certain things about my craft. It's always for me a learning process, and I knew that it was a lot of mistakes that I made. Like I own my mistakes. I'll say this, like as much as I can. I'm not afraid of failing and afraid of learning, and just retooling and just always honing the craft. So I recognized there were a lot of mistakes that I saw in Between Sins, the short. And the one thing that I knew for the feature was that I needed to have the lead have a range of emotions and the capability to be able to carry that range of emotions throughout the feature. And George Taylor, he was able to do that. I recognized that when we did the short, that he had something in him that could carry the range of the film and all the expressions, both spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, in Between Sins. So I approached him about converting from Pudda to the main character of Koi, and he was down with it.
My name is George Taylor. I'm a 46-year-old actor from West Palm Beach, Florida. I've been acting probably about 5 or 6 years. I got introduced into the acting realm through Carlos Miller. Our origins were actually through music in the beginning. We met through a mutual friend. We usually kind of used to collaborate all the time in the studio. And I was doing music. I was always feeling like I had a thespian bone in me, but never really having an opportunity to express it, because coming from Florida, we just don't have the amenities to service our needs like acting and music, and you usually have to move to another spot to be involved fully. So meeting Carlos was actually a good move for me and a good feel for me, because he was involved in something that I always was interested in. At the time, I was getting older. I forget what the age was or whatever. But I was always interested in making that transition into film and being an actor. And Carlos came around at the right time and gave me an opportunity to be a part of a short. And he gave me an opportunity to play a role in that short. And that's where it started. I knew in my heart that I could do it. It was just about making it translate and come across on film as something that's suitable for the eye. He thought so. Our surrounding support group thought so, and we kind of ran with it from there. And I started to get confidence with it. The journey with the film in itself, it wasn't easy, because there is a format to this. It isn't just a feeling you have and you can just do it because you feel like it. So I learned about the bumps in the road as far as the craft, and perfecting my craft and trying to become one of those, and trying to become elite, if you would say. I learned so much from Carlos because he was actually already in the field, just being an aspiring director at the time and growing into the person he is now. As you heard, he's a really, really spiritual person. So I learned a lot from him on and off camera. The role that I played it was funny about this film, because the role that I played was extremely organic. The character Coy had a lot of similarities that were to my own life and things that I was dealing with at the time. So when I got the script, I started to see who Coy was and what kind of person this actually was. He was an incarcerated individual who missed a lot of time in his life because of his incarceration. And things had changed a bit upon his release. Well, first off, he came out, shout out to Carolyn Johnson, such an amazing actor, to her ailing mother. She plays my mother in the film. And it was just such a privilege to just be alongside of somebody with just such talent. He comes out to an ailing mother and a daughter that he missed a lot of time with. And she's a teenager now. Teenagers, they're teenagers. And he had to catch up with some time with her and get back on track with her and her mother, which is played by Angela Khan. And in my own personal life, this is what was actually happening. A readjustment from a former life into a new life. So the role was challenging because it was new as far as my first full feature film. That was the challenge, but upon reading the script, it became so organic that it flowed too naturally, actually. It was an experience that I'll definitely take to the grave, because I will always be able to be in line with that character. It meant so much to me at the time. Skylar Rain Rowe is my actual daughter in the film. She's my actual daughter in real life. And this is what made it super organic. I have two daughters. I have Jasmine and I have Skylar. And initially I wanted to pick Jasmine And Carlos' vibe was with Skylar. I hadn't already told Jasmine she had the part. And Carlos said no, it was Skylar he wanted. And I had to go tell Jasmine just the reverse. And her being a soldier, she's such a soldier, she took it so well. But it was Skylar who became Skylar in the movie. And our hardships in real life, we transferred that over into film. Not purposely. It just sort of happened like that. And there was a lot of things going on in this film that were happening unplanned. Like Carlos, I'm not as spiritual, but I'm in tune with something got to be out there. So a lot of things I can't explain. A lot of things was happening during this film that was just happening. It was working itself out throughout the motion of this film. And you have to credit that to something. But this was just an experience that I'll never forget. Between Sins is definitely a film from the heart, and it's an organic film, and everybody put their all into it.
The next character that I now needed to fill was the Pudda character that he just vacated to become Coy, the main character. And I had a homeboy named Rico Berto Duval. He plays Pudda. He has a story, an incredible story that is it's powerful, man, and it's powerful in the sense of not just the negative aspects, but what he's overcome and what he has become, and kind of what I see in him, man. I see Rigo Berto Duval as a real warrior in a lot of ways, and that was like the thing about filmmaking is the villain has to be more powerful, in my opinion, than the hero. He has to be more powerful than the hero. Like, for me, that's a failure in a lot of films, is that you have a forgettable villain. And Superman isn't Superman if he doesn't have a strong enough villain to make him have to put on a cape. Like, you have to have someone that's your adversary to make you put on a cape. If you don't have that adversary, then Batman is never Batman. He's just Bruce Wayne. He's just a character living in a cave and living a rich life. But you need a strong villain to make you rise to that occasion. And like, all these themes are themes that I was trying to bring out in all of us, are just in the psychological part of the film. Like, we have to, as far as real life characters, we need obstacles in life to make us rise to who we truly are capable of being. And like, it's these little nuances that I want to express in Between Sins, with Pudda being such a convincing character for Coy. Like, I wanted Pudda to have arguments that are valid. Like, living life how you want to live is fun. I mean, the devil has a convincing argument. Like, that's why people choose that way, because it is a very valid and convincing argument. So in order for me to express this dichotomy between the spiritual and the physical and the good and the bad, I have to have characters on both sides that are convincing in what they believe, and more so the Pudda and the physical and the I don't want to use evil, but it's more so the physical side of the argument. With Pudda, it has to be convincing for Coy to rise to the occasion and be who he thinks he is and who he wants to become throughout the story. So in a nutshell, just as far as like the origins of Between Sins, it definitely started with just where I was in life, and knowing that I'm not I've always had this calling, but not really knowing how it would manifest itself and kind of come into formation. And there was times in my life where I was just kind of going with the wind. And I think in a lot of ways, when people started telling me to write the feature to Between Sins, again, I got to go back to God, kind of trying to center me through what I was most passionate at the time, because it wasn't him. So for him to kind of recapture my heart, he had to capture what I love to do. And he did that by having all these people around me say, make between scenes, because I was about to make some stuff for Hollywood that had nothing to do with, you know, my ultimate purpose and calling. So by all these people saying, okay, make between sins, it was really God saying, nigga, get back on track.
For our people, I don't think we do enough as far as we don't get credit for the things that we actually do. So a lot of times we have ourselves in a position to try to do everything. We don't collaborate with each other enough because of maybe the fear of not getting the credit that you deserve. It's my personal belief. I think that's it got a lot to do with why we're so stagnant with working each other. So my thing is just follow your beliefs, man. You know, working with Carlos just taught me so much about, and my producer Tyler Cheatham, just a union between us. And maybe I was a person in a negative mind state who was stagnant about just being a part of a union. It just feels so good to be a part of something, rather than trying to do it all yourself. Initially, we get caught up into that for whatever our individual reasons are. And sometimes you have to just trust and be cool with being a part of something. And sometimes that's actually the best way to go. You know, they always say 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 heads are better than one. You know, take the stress off your shoulders and trust in someone and be there for somebody as they should be there for you. And I'm almost sure that whatever it is that you're doing should work.
My name is Tyler Cheatham. I'm a American entrepreneur, born and raised in Riviera Beach, Florida, and I'm a film producer. Originally, a mutual friend of Carlos, the writer-director of Between Sins, hit me up. His name is Shife. He's a big-time producer from around here, and he's like a big brother to me. So he hit me up. At the time, I was back and forth still from Tallahassee. I had graduated from FAMU, but I was still, you know, up there doing my thing a little bit. So I was back and forth, and I was always tapping in with Shife every time I came home, because he was my direct link, you know, to the industry. And he was telling me like, yo, man, he always kept telling me like, man, you gotta meet my dog, A-Game. Like, you gotta meet A-Game. And that's Carlos, that's you know, his nickname, what everybody call him, A-Game. And he kept telling me, you gotta meet A-Game, man. Like, y'all got a lot in common. Y'all both smart. Like, I really think y'all gonna hit it off or whatever. So one day I happened to be down there, and he had a script, and he was studying it. He's like, yeah, bro, you need to audition for A-Game movie. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it was a whole bunch of other dudes, you know, we knew from the community in there, everybody studying up. Now, all of these guys were like, you know, dudes I looked up to, you know, they were like real street figures and OGs to me. So seeing it, you know, seeing them doing something outside of their element, and this before I even met A-Game, it really just intrigued me. I'm like, this A-Game gotta be something. So he came in and he was just this, I didn't know what to expect, but he was such a humble dude, but at the same time he was so focused on his agenda, his plan, and executing. So I had like a immediate admiration for him and just how he handled himself. So I'm not really an actor, you know, I'm a character, but I ain't an actor. So it was I did my little part, you know. He was like, yeah, man, good. You know, so I didn't necessarily expect to get the part, but I remember telling him, I'm like, look, bro, I gave him like my quick little resume of, you know, whatever resources I had and whatever things I could do and yada yada yada. And I basically told him, I'm like, look, however you need help with the film or whatever you got going on, I want to be a part of it because I want to align myself with winners, and it was clear to me that A-Gang, you know, Carlos was a winner. So that's how that went, and eventually, you know, we developed a decent relationship, you know, just on some mutual hanging out type thing with different friends and all. And over time, you know, we got on a text basis, and one day he just hit me up. He was like, "Hey, bro, you interested in producing my film?" And it totally caught me off guard, being that, like I said, he was on a level that I was just aspiring to get to. So for him to come to me with it, I'm like, I was super humble. I'm like, man, whatever you want, I'm game. If you want me to be your producer, let's do it. And that's how it started off.
After the script of Between Sins was finished, I didn't know how I was going to finance the film. I didn't know how I was going to make the film. I didn't know. I mean, I'm coming from, you know, Riviera Beach was a mostly black, predominantly black city, a single parent mother. You know, finances aren't there to make a film. You know, a film, like, film has been historically and predominantly a white rich man's game. So coming into the game, no matter, even though it's years later and, you know, economics have changed, to make a film is still incredibly hard. It's not, I mean, this has, to be honest with you, this has taxed me and has shown me who I am just as much as anything else has been in life. Cumulative. Like, this one thing has transformed me more than anything else in my life. I could definitely say that. So I have to be honest. Like, throughout this whole process of making this film, and even getting to this point, like, growing up, I had Spike Lee on my wall, man. Like he was a portrait on my wall. Like, I didn't know that I would end up being tutored by him. I didn't know that he would. That wasn't like, I wasn't game planning for that, but that shows you how powerful vision is. Like, I wasn't, even when I applied to NYU, I didn't know really that he was actually a professor there, even though it stated everywhere, because I wasn't looking at NYU for that purpose. But then I was like, oh shoot, yeah, he does teach here. So like, all these things kind of like were increasing my belief in the ultimate purpose of who I'm designed and was created to be, and I believe that with all my heart. So fast forwarding, not knowing how I'm gonna make this film, NYU had a grant. I applied for the grant. I received the grant for NYU, went across the stage, and that was my ability to make the film. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough, and I've always believed in enough. Like, if it's just me, that's enough, because it's never just me. Like, again, going back to my belief in God, like, I know I always have Him, so me and God is more than enough, man. And that's stated scripturally always throughout the Bible. You know, when I forget the character's name in the Bible, when he's looking out and he sees the army, and he's worried about all those people out there, and it's only a few of them. I believe it was Elijah and one of his servants. And he's like, and Elijah's like, yo, look out there and look at us, man. It's more with us than with them. It's more with us than with them. So that's how I always believe. Like if I got God, I got a way. So that's kind of what, from there between, and let me say this, even I wrote this TV Bible, and Spike really championed and was really like, he was really a fan of this TV idea, this TV palette that I wrote, and he recommended me to his agency, and I was able to work with this agent who was like really, you know, digging the work that I was doing. So from there, I actually ran across some producers who wanted to invest in the film. And they was trying to invest like $600K into the film. So I had my grant and I had what they wanted to put in. But around the same time, Trump was being elected to office. So if you remember, around that time, the political and the economic space was real shaky. Like they didn't know what the Trump presidency would bring and what it would cause to the economics of the world. So the investors at the time were hesitant about putting their money into the film. So that my agent at the time, he came and he was like, "Yo, what you want to do, man? You wanna wait this thing out?" Which meant now that I have to wait longer to make the film, and now I have actors who I'm talking with about the film, they might become uninterested in the film. So I weighed the pros and the cons. I was like, "Yo, let me take the grant money that I have, and let me shoot this film with what I have," and that kind of set everything off, because again, now I'm going against what I can see for what I can't see. Meaning I'm going against what doesn't make sense in the physical realm, and believing something that's inside, that's calling and just let me know, if you trust me, everything that you think will happen and that you hope will happen, if it's for the right reasons, it will happen. And that's kind of what happened. So the financing took care of itself, and then everything else fell in place as far as like running to producer Tyler Cheatham. He came around. We connected at the right time. It's like a blessing from God. Like he was invaluable, like priceless, and just filling in the gaps where I didn't have the capability to fill these gaps. Like the film doesn't happen without Tyler Cheatham. The film doesn't happen without Carolyn Johnson. You know, reaching out to different people. I knew I needed a strong mother. I'm over here asking my mom to play the mom role, but she doesn't have that, you know, the stamina for acting in that capacity and that range that's needed. So, but this is me knowing I only have a certain amount of money, so I'm going to what I know first, and then that's forcing me to go to other places when what I know doesn't work out. So Carolyn Johnson came on board, and she's like an amazing actress from Miami, Florida. She's doing a lot of big things right now with Netflix and a lot of other TV series. She's a powerful theatrical stage play actress, and I actually met her during a stage play that she was in at the time. George Chiller and Rigoberto Duval, and as well as Angela Khan. I believe she's married now, so I don't really know her last name, but I'll just say Angela, who plays Angela in the film. We all went to go see Carolyn Johnson, and that's actually where you know, I called her off stage and talked to her, told her the inspiration for the film, what I wanted the film to be, and she was down to be a part of it. So this is kind of like, again, God, sure, I'm gonna have to say God again, but he was just letting things fall into place. And to kind of carry a little bit further than that, and the film gets made, the film gets shot, the film is edited. I think the film is one thing, but the film is not this thing. And what do I mean by that? I had forgot. I was telling my pastor this like a couple of weeks ago, but I lost sight of how difficult the film would be to bring into fruition by going the route that I chose to go, which was when at the genesis of this film, I said, God, and I'm being straight up, I said, God, I might only get one chance to do a film for you. So I'm gonna make this first film your film, and it's gonna be for you. And if you look out for me, then I'm gonna do it. But I knew that to do anything that goes against the physical in this world, you got to pay for it, because that's not the progression of this world. So you're fighting against the friction. You're fighting against the stream that's going downwards, and you're trying to go upwards. And that's the same thing in the film game, but I lost sight of that. So I'm expecting, in a lot of ways, this film to be received in certain ways. You forgot, you know that it's not going to happen this way. It can't happen that way, because that means now you're using the very devices, the very tools that you're trying to defeat. It doesn't make sense, you know. So the film had a very difficult I'm not gonna lie, I went through a very tough space of a lot of years, because this film was shot in 2017. This is 2023, you know, and part of that phase of waiting was there's a documentary part in the film with Corey Jones, and that case had to play out, and that took 3 years. So I can say the principal film started in 2017, but it really didn't end and wrap up to around 2020, 2021 even. So just because that documentary portion of the film had to play out, and I didn't want to influence the outcome of that film with this, the outcome of that case, excuse me, with this film coming out. So these are conversations that I have with God, like, God, I don't want to feel like messing up anything that could happen with that trial. I don't want to feel like this film is influencing in any negative way even the financial aspects of that trial and how it could benefit the family, you know. So, and sure enough, all these things have wrapped up as recently as a few months ago. Things I asked God to grant me the peace to know that I'm not and we're not as a team negatively influencing anything. He fulfilled that. Like, he fulfilled that to the T.
So in Palm Beach, what you have is different dynamics, different characters. You may have, they say opposites attract. You have that a lot in Palm Beach. You have characters that you wouldn't think that these two guys or these two individuals would be in cahoots with each other, or would be friends, or just would be allies of any sort. Because Palm Beach is a place that brings people from one side of the bridge to the other side of the bridge. So you have different walks of life who mingle with each other, and they always have. It's just always been a melting pot of a mixed breed. So my co actor in the film, Rigoberto Duval, is Pudda, who plays Pudda. He is an example. Him and Corey are an example of what the chemistry in Palm Beach could be. One person trying to go into another direction, one person who's just solid in his foundation. He is what he is. There's no change in it. Quote from the film. And you have other people who are ready to just see another side, and who are ready to advance or make a transition to another part of life. I guess you got that going on worldwide, but I think the organic nature of the film is both of us are actually those real people. It ain't no secret. I think we're urban, and we're urbanly inclined. Both of us, and some of us more than others. The role that Carlos, the script that Carlos wrote for this film, it was so for both characters. I can't explain it. Coy was so me, and Pudda was so Rigoberto Duval. So, trying to depict how two different things can actually gel or not is what you have in Palm Beach, is what you have as the origins of Palm Beach. It's either it's going to work or it's not. So I think the script was just perfect for the both of us. I won't say I didn't have to work. I did, but it was so organic. Everything about the film was just organic.
So the journey of this film for me, it was a nice ride on the water, if that makes sense. You know, it was really smooth for me because Carlos was really the leg work. He did all the heavy lifting. The stuff he asked me to do was easy for me. It was stuff that was within my reach, within my circle or whatever it may be, it wasn't hard for me to do. With, you know, although he might have felt like he probably was asking a lot of me, it really wasn't. It wasn't a lot he asked at all of me. And eventually I became closer and closer and closer with Carlos, so I understood a lot of the, I wouldn't say struggles, but a lot of the hoops and stuff he had to go through to get things done. So I became a part of that, and I really just became Carlos' support system. And that was that. So like I said, it was a real smooth experience for me. There was some hurdles in the road after we got the production done. That's when the real fun, I guess they would say, started to happen. That's when we really had to get legal involved on some different things, try to get some different clearances on stuff. We got a lot of denials on different film festivals. So, you know, that was I wouldn't say it was discouraging, even though it was, but it was just something we just had to deal with. And I can remember when we initially thought that we were at least in Sundance. And I remember I happened to run into Carlos at a club in Miami just randomly, and he showed me the email, and we kind of did a light little celebration, and it never happened. We never actually got in. It was just, I don't know, I guess, I don't know what it was, but it didn't happen for us. So I kind of put it out my mind, you know what I mean? Tried to block it out and just focus on what we had control over. And I didn't even know Carlos was applying to the American Black Film Festival, but he hit me up maybe a year or so after that, and he said, bro, we got into the American Black Film Festival. And I said, you sure? He like, nah, I'm 100% sure, fam. Like, we're in. So I called a few people that I knew in the industry, tried to get some game on how to approach the film festival and everything, making sure we made the best of it. And shout out to Jeff Friday and his beautiful wife, Mrs. Friday. They really have a real platform with the American Black Film Festival. It was more than I expected, and from it, because of it and it alone, we got a distribution deal. Somebody was there that represented a company that saw our film, loved it, and basically pitched us on the deal that night.
So yeah, so I was applying to a lot of film I applied to a lot of film festivals. Film festivals, if I'm being real, I thought I was too good for. I thought we were too good for. I thought the film was too good for. I was applying to them, and them film festivals was turning this film down. And I'm just kind of being real. And when I say too good for, it's not really. I don't want to say it's prideful, but it's more so just like a belief in what it is that we're making. So it sound, I don't know how, if it's coming across arrogant or prideful, but it's more so just a belief in what you're doing, man. And it's like, no, we're the best. We are the best. I'm working with the best, so we deserve the best. So anything that was less wasn't good enough. But I guess it must have been pride, because I guess it must have been, again, going against the stream, that I'm thinking we are the stream, and it don't work like that. So all these film festivals will turn us down. I applied to ABFF, which is the American Black Film Festival. I applied to them earlier, and they turned us down. Came back around a few years later, applied to them again. And ABFF, I have to give them credit. They accepted us. And ABFF, Nicole Friday, Jeff Friday, they blessed us. I'm forever thankful to them for seeing whatever that no one else saw, they saw. And from there, we're here. Like now we're have a release for Between Sins on Amazon Prime on March 31st, as well as Voodoo. as well as Xfinity, as well as Cox, as well as Charter, as well as Tubi on June 1st.
Finally having the film make it to Amazon Prime first. They were the first ones to pick it up. Like I said, it really gave us the head nod that, hey, you know, you guys really doing something right. You know what I mean? That all this hard work, all this time and dedication and patience, like I said, like none of that was in vain. So like I said, that just let me know, hey, we are doing something right. We are headed in the right direction, and this is a real thing. And then from there, maybe like a week later, we got the nod from Xfinity, and from there, the rest just fell in the line. The Tubi, the Voodoo. So, like I said, it all just fell into place on its own. Like I said, we didn't push. We weren't, you know, blowing people's phones up or none of that. We just put our head down, did our work, and put it out there. And God did the rest.
So, and that's all God's glory. But this journey was not easy. This journey was not. I tell my students all the time, man. If this doesn't happen to you, if your dreams aren't fulfilled until you're 55, 60, are you willing to wait that long? And if the answer is no, then maybe your heart ain't there, or maybe you need to recheck what you believe in and why you're doing it, because you don't know when this thing gonna pop and you don't know how long it's gonna take.
My mom had this huge rock bed growing up. Weeds would grow all crazy through the cracks, turn everything all ugly, you know? Now, moms wouldn't let me use the chemicals on the garden weeds. I had to pick those by hand. But on that rock bed, she'll let me have at it with those chemicals. I still remember the first week I sprayed the weeds. Nothing really happened. The weeds popped right back up. The following week, same thing. But after a while, I noticed the weeds were barely growing, if at all. At first I was happy. I felt like they went on to somebody else's yard to torture, you know? But I think that's when it hit me. It wasn't that they didn't want to grow. It was that they couldn't grow. I poisoned the ground. And that's what it always felt like in my hood, you know? A whole bunch of poison dumped on our heads, saturating the ground for generations. And they wonder why we still can't grow.